Today we're sitting with Pam Goodman from Recovery Road, and we are very excited to have this conversation with her. She specializes in anorexia, bulimia, and binge or emotional eating, and she's also licensed in eating freely, so she's a practitioner in that. And you work online or in person as well. So I'd just like to hand over to you, and you can give us a brief introduction.
Hi. So I do exactly what you say, but I'm also trained in addiction, drug, alcohol before the eating disorder, which will be interesting to explain if you would like to know. But I've been doing this for a very long time. Like, I'm older, a little bit wiser, and I've changed my style quite a lot throughout the years. I was always in rehabs before, working in rehabs, and went private because I felt there was a need to be more holistic, in my approach to people. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's where I am. I work online and in person.
So we'll just start broadly. Why is women's wellness so important to you?
Okay, so just to clarify, I don't only work with women, but I do
Yes.
predominantly, okay, because eating disorders are, they reach both genders, all genders, but it's so much more stigma. There's so much more stigma attached with men. And for me, women's wellness is so important because I've been through my own journey and I know exactly, how we get to the trauma and where we get to find these unhealthy coping mechanisms. And women always put themselves last. It shouldn't be that way anymore, but it is. To me, wellness is coming home to yourself. It's not selfish to care about yourself. And I think we are taught that as young girls, even, don't be so selfish. You've got to put other people first, and we don't need to.
Absolutely. So what led you to start Recovery Road, and what drives you to keep going in this? Because you've been, as you said, in this game quite a long time.
Okay, so what happened was I was actually a nursing sister, and I was working in a psychiatric clinic in Cape Town, and there was an addiction unit attached to it. Okay, so to give you a brief background, I don't want to talk for too long about this. My dad was an undiagnosed alcoholic, and I was an undiagnosed overeater. My whole childhood, I was on diets, diet pills, backwards and forwards, yo-yo. I tried everything. I just thought I was horribly greedy, and I didn't know I had an eating disorder. Anyway, so here I am. I'm working in a psychiatric setting, and there's a addiction unit attached to it, and they would come to me for medication, and I just started talking to the people and realizing how much I could relate and how much I understood and really felt for them. They weren't being lazy, they weren't being greedy, they were out of control, and they could not be in control. And it really spoke to me. So I got into it through that way. I studied for 4 years. I got an accreditation in addiction counseling. There was very little in this country at the time, but I did that, and then I started working with a doctor, Dr. Mayer, who's a big addiction specialist in Cape Town, and we opened a halfway house kind of story. And as I progressed in my knowledge, we became bigger and bigger and bigger, and became an actual force. It was really an amazing facility. And while there, I was there for like 20 years, I got very burnt out from it. So that's why I'm now private. But one of the things that spoke to me in those early years was that I was still binge eating. I didn't, and then I kind of realized when I was working with addicts that a lot of them would substitute and would start eating junk, loads and loads of junk, and putting on weight. And some of them actually really had eating disorders, and others were using this as a coping mechanism for something new. And it spoke to me. So I addressed my own issue very early in in the whole game. I went to therapist, I did everything, and then I studied eating disorders. And so here I am in Recovery Road. My niche is more eating disorders, but I do sometimes see addicts, with other problems as well. And yeah, I'm going ahead and thriving and really enjoy it. It's mostly women, it's mostly young women, no self-esteem, and I could relate to that from my past as well. Yeah. It's very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? When I get it right, I can't think of the word right now. Satisfying. It's very satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So, in your opinion, what are the effects of social media on these issues?
It's a good question. There is some good. The good being that there's more awareness, which reduces some stigma, but there's also a hell of a lot of judgmentalness. So that's discouraging. There's also a lot of comparison. One person, people will look for anorexic sites and look at how to be sicker. And, that's really a problem. So boundaries are very important in what you do on social media. There's also a eating disorder 12-step programs online, which are very useful for people who can't get to meetings in person. So there's a great need for it, but there's also needs to be a lot of protection, against what you're looking at and what you're listening to. And that's very difficult to control.
Regulate.
Yeah, regulate, exactly.
Okay. What is your opinion on the importance of using nature as part of your therapy that you offer?
It's essential, absolutely essential. I mean, I walk every morning. I walk with my dog. Now it's summer, 6 o'clock in the morning, the best time. It regulates your nervous system. It helps people drop from head into body. It helps with depression. It's, healing doesn't have to be hard, and you don't have to do mad exercise. A lot of my clients are anorexic. They're not allowed to exercise at all. So I'm encouraging them as they go along to move gently. And just a walk. A walk every day it's so good for the head.
And is this in nature, sort of maybe on the beach, if they're near the beach, or sort of somewhere green?
Yeah, I think nature, I walk on the mountain, on Table Mountain, and it's just so soothing and so relaxing. And even if I'm feeling a little bit tense, I breathe and I look at everything. I think mindfulness is really a very, very important component of recovery, to be in the moment. And that's a very hard thing for people to do. But the more you practice it, the more time you have. And if you're walking, there's so much to see in nature. You look at the birds, you look at the flowers, you look at the trees, you are in the moment. And that's a very good therapeutic tool.
So what effect do these types of conditions that you've explained, that you try and help with, have on a woman's nervous system and fertility?
Okay, so chronic stress and disordered eating, your body is stuck in survival mode. You're in fight or flight. It impacts sleep. It impacts your hormones. It impacts fertility. If you're bulimic, you're going to get hernias, esophageal problems, ulcers. The range is from not being able to, depending how large you get, people can't walk. I have a client who, she needs a hip replacement, but they won't do it because she's too large. And heart attacks. Anorexics die. There's 10% of anorexics die from this disease, and others live in misery. So, and then with addiction, it's also affects all the same things,
That's so sad. It's a very serious. It's not something that can be ignored.
No, but it is so often ignored. And I mean, I just got a call from someone this morning who said she's working with this client who's 5'8" or something tall and is weighing 37 kilograms. And she's just come out of treatment for anorexia. Anorexia is one of the hardest things to deal with. And the medication is food, you know.
Yes.
After that, you can't do anything until the person has enough nutrition in their brain, in their body, to be cognizant of what you're saying, you know. I say to her, I can't help her at 37 kilograms. She needs treatment. And she's just come out of treatment. And she just says yes to everything. It's a really hard one. But we do have successes. We really do. That makes up for, you know, I've seen miracles happen, but it takes time. This is not a quick fix by any means,
Absolutely.
you know.
Okay, so in your opinion, what's your take on the importance of community, especially with regards to women going through these difficult situations?
Well, shame grows in silence. You know, connection gives people a chance to heal. It gives support, it gives accountability and belonging. You know, healing happens in relationships, not isolation. So community is vital. What sometimes happens, though, is that they form communities where everybody's really not well. And I've seen this on social media, on Facebook, where I joined a group of eating disordered just to kind of see where everybody's at. And the advice people are giving is often in a community, you know, a decent voice comes in at some stage. So community is really very important.
Yes, it's amazing because holistic experts and medical experts say the same thing. Without community, you are so shackled, really. It's vital sort of in both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since starting this type of intervention therapy, what are some surprising outcomes that you've experienced personally?
Surprising. I'm surprised that some people actually get well. Because they've been stuck in this for years.
Yes.
I see people getting a life. I had a client, she was my client for about 4 years, and she had gotten over her anorexia. She was eating properly after about a year, but she had suffered from such severe depression, and psychiatrists tried every drug in the world that he could think of, and it would work for a few months, and then she'd be depressed again. And I never ever thought this girl would have a life. And 5 years later, she's in a relationship. She lives with her boyfriend. She works. She leads. You know, that for me was very surprising. And sometimes, you know, people don't get it at all. So it can be really difficult.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is difficult because obviously as their therapist, you only want the best for them. So that must be
Yeah.
quite sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So for women that perhaps aren't aware that there's an escalating potential issue, what are some red flags to look out for?
Okay, so if someone is exercising excessively, obsession with food and body, you know, starts isolating, guilty around eating, constantly feeling not good enough. What are some of the other things that come to mind? It can be quite a silent disease, you know, withdrawing from family, not coming for meals, losing a lot of weight, putting on a lot of weight, you know, quite in a short amount of time. Yeah, those are the main
Red flags. Because I always wondered to myself, I mean, weight with any woman is a sensitive topic. We fluctuate so much, whether it's to do with stress, life stages, hormones. I mean, there's so many things. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting to me, the dysregulation with food. I mean, even during the holidays now, you start picking up things because I'm hyper aware of that kind of thing around my daughter. I'm very, very aware of what I'm exposing her to. And it always interests me, where is the line between dysregulated issues and then it's like, okay, this is actually a possible problem?
It's very hard. It's very hard to see, from the outside. And also, people misuse, and there's so much talk all the time. I'm amazed at, I can go to any restaurant with any friends, and every woman is talking about how they're fat here, they shouldn't be eating this. I walk on the mountain and people are walking towards me talking about their bodies. There's so much shaming. And people who really don't need to, lose weight, or so there's a lot of therapy has to be involved in this. Why are you so attracted to this? I mean, the amount of people on Manjaro today, and I do work with a couple of clients on Manjaro, because when they come off it, they have to be able to regulate their eating. So they have to start regulating it on the drug,
Wow.
And if they don't, they're going to lose weight really quickly. They're going to lose muscle mass. It's going to be a shit show. And then they come off and they put it all on again. Yeah, I don't know if that answers the question you asked me.
It all relates because I just, it's so worrying, especially with social media and everything, this constant image that we shown and this is ideally how you should look and be and whatever. It's so worrying to me. I try and protect my daughter from that. I'm like, the things that I focus on is health, exercise, eating well. We don't cut things out or focus, that's a bad food, that's a good, just balance.
Absolutely.
But it's quite a scary
Absolutely.
world to be growing up in.
Completely. I hear you. It is. And I will avoid talking about food. I will go out and enjoy a meal, and I don't talk about weight. I don't talk about body. I do exactly what you do. I talk about health and self-love. Because if you don't love yourself, you don't take care of yourself. It's really that simple, It's not easy, but it's simple.
Exactly.
If you understand what I mean.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So how can we help and support friends or family that are going through these challenges?
Okay, so to listen without trying to fix, just listen. You cannot give an opinion on, especially because you don't really know and they won't accept it. You can encourage professional help, but stay consistent with them. Whether they accept it or not, I'm here. Compassion and patience are the most important things. Like, I hear you. What can I do? Is there anything I can do? Would you like me to help you find a therapist? Well done. You've actually come out and spoken about it. That's the first step, encouragement, compassion, and patience. Yeah.
And in your opinion, how important are safe spaces for all of this to occur, especially with addiction and eating disorders and that kind of thing?
Gosh, it's everything. I mean, it's essential for trust and vulnerability, So many people carry trauma, and I do believe that trauma is at the root of all compulsive behaviors. It's like, well, I'll just do this instead of feeling the way I feel. And people need to learn to trust you. You can't have any healing without trust. So I always invite a client to come and see me for a session. I don't take on people straight away. I say, let's meet each other. Let's see if we can try and work with each other. For me, being able to hear my client is the most important thing. So I back off a lot in the beginning and just let them talk, and then I'll come in. So it's essential. You can't heal without safety.
Okay. So So the last question, what are 3 things that you wish South African women knew when it came to attaining balanced health and wellness? 3 things.
I wish they knew that they came first. That you have to love yourself before you can really take care of anybody else. Your needs are as important. That balance isn't perfect. It shifts all the time, and that's okay. It's okay to not be perfect. And for me, real wellness equals connection with body, with others, and something bigger than self. So I'm not talking religion. I'm talking community. I'm talking just believing in something, that you are not the be all and end all and know everything, And I think the most important thing is to love yourself exactly as you are. And by loving yourself, you do things, you have to take action. There's no healing without action. And a lot of people don't get that. It's like get into some kind of routine. It takes time, but do it. Get up every morning, go for a walk, eat breakfast, eat a healthy breakfast, Don't always eat healthy food, of course not, but mostly,
Yes.
I've learned how to care for my body in a way that I never knew possible. I just used to dream when I was little of rooms full of biltong with thick fat and chocolates. That's all I wanted, And now if I go to a restaurant, carrot cake is my favorite cake. But they give you such a big piece that I start feeling ill after, like, I can't take a whole piece anymore. And I think that's fine. If someone wants to eat a whole piece of cake, that's fine. Your body adjusts as you do the right things, and then you don't want the same things anymore.
No.
So be kind to yourself. That's the most important thing. Treat yourself like you want others, like you treat others.
Exactly. Okay, are there any upcoming events or workshops or collaborations with other brands that you are going to be having in the near future?
No, it's the beginning of the year, so I do know that Montrose Manor is putting on an eating disorder conference, but I think it's only for professionals in a few months' time, but no, at the moment.
And the last question, what are your contact details if someone wants to get hold of you, maybe they want to have a chat? I know your Instagram, let me just quickly go to it, is Pam_recovery_road.
Yes.
Is there a website?
So they could email me. I do have a website, but it is busy being upgraded, and it's going to be Pam@recoveryroad. That's my email address. They can contact me anytime on that, and then I'll put out a notice on Instagram when my website is up and running again, because there will be a contact. There will be a place to contact me on that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been really nice.